Hey guys, it's Allie with Cruise Blog. Today we're going to be going through 27 first-time Alaska cruise tips that you need to know before you head to the last frontier. Let's get into it. Alaska makes for an exciting cruise destination. However, be prepared to trade in your flip-flops and sundresses for winter gloves and jackets. During your voyage to the last frontier, you will encounter snow-capped mountains, abundant wildlife, beautiful glaciers, and once-in-a-lifetime shore excursions. Here are the best Alaska cruise tips to help you have an amazing visit this year. Up first, research the best cruise line and ship for you. Alaska is not a year-round destination. Cruise lines deploy a select number of ships for a few months throughout the year, typically April through October. You can find ships from most mainstream cruise lines, including Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Norwegian, Holland America, Princess, and Celebrity. Starting next year, MSC Cruises and Virgin will also sail to Alaska. Moreover, the vessels that each line sends to the region will have different onboard amenities, and they vary in size and age. To have the best cruise possible, you must evaluate your travel preferences to choose the best cruise line and ship for you and your travel party. Next, you'll want to figure out when you want to visit Alaska. As mentioned earlier, Alaska is not a year-round cruise destination, and the season typically runs from April to October. Depending on your budget and/or expectations, you may prefer to sail during the shoulder or peak season. Sailing during peak season would be in June, July, and August, and that's when the daylight hours are the longest. In addition, you will find more pleasant temperatures and greater wildlife viewing opportunities. Of course, prices will be much higher than if you were to cruise in May or September. So if you want to save money, cruise during shoulder season. To get the best rate on your Alaskan cruise, you'll want to look at sailings towards the beginning and end of the season. During April or May and September and October, you'll find lower cruise fares as well as fewer families on board because of traditional school calendars. You can pay hundreds of dollars more per person for the same itinerary than if you were to sail during the shoulder season. Also, be sure to book an inside cabin for cheaper fares. While you might not be able to take in the scenery from your stateroom, you're never far from a public observation deck. Plus, spending less money on your cabin might allow you to splurge on other cruise add-ons, such as once-in-a-lifetime shore excursions to the top of a glacier or whale watching tours. For example, Royal Caribbean lists the starting price of an inside cabin on board Anthem of the Seas' July departure at $1,400 per person based on double occupancy. A balcony stateroom on the same cruise increases to $2,100. Also, make sure to book with a travel agent. If you are unsure of where to begin when planning your Alaska cruise, think about utilizing a travel agent. Not only can they help you pick the right cruise line and ship, but they also can recommend and book onboard experiences and shore excursions. This will save you time as you will not have to be the one researching everything. Additionally, they can take care of pre-cruise travel logistics, including your airfare and hotel stay. Also, consider splurging on a balcony cabin. Balcony staterooms are a great way to enjoy the beautiful scenery of Alaska from the privacy of your own veranda. They do, however, come with a higher cost, as we mentioned, than interior and ocean view staterooms, which can sometimes amount to hundreds of dollars more per person. If splurging on a balcony cabin is in your budget, though, you will not regret having access to private outdoor space. Other cruisers may prefer to save money and purchase cruise add-ons, such as shore excursions, so don't feel as though a balcony cabin is a necessity for a great Alaska cruise vacation. There will be ample deck space for you to get outside wherever you feel like it. It's important to take your budget into consideration and prioritize your travel preferences. And while you aren't guaranteed to see the Northern Lights, there are times of the year when your chances are higher. If you want to see the Northern Lights, you'll want to wait to sail later in the season, as the aurora season typically lasts from the end of August until mid-April. If you take a late season cruise in September or October, you might be part of the lucky group of passengers who are able to see the Northern Lights. However, this is never a guarantee. Also, consider extending your trip through a land-based cruise tour. Many cruise lines offer journeys into Alaska in the form of land-based cruise tours that can take you where a cruise ship simply cannot. You can choose to take the land-based tour either before or after your cruise. For instance, Celebrity Cruises offers cruise tours that range from 9 to 13 nights, including the cruise portion, that take you through remote roads and railways to destinations like Anchorage and Denali. None of these experiences would be possible with a cruise to Alaska only, as the destinations are located too far inland. Also, make sure you purchase travel insurance. Purchasing travel insurance for any vacation is a good idea, as you never know when there will be a medical emergency or another unforeseen circumstance that puts a halt to your plans. Even though most insurance plans for United States citizens should work in Alaska, travel insurance will cover more, such as travel delays and cancellations, lost luggage or valuables, medical coverage, emergency transportation, and more. Also, make sure you arrive one day before the cruise is scheduled to depart. If you're flying to your cruise port, you'll want to make sure that you plan your flight for the day before embarkation. While some terminals, like the ones in Seattle and Vancouver, are located close to the airport, others are a few hours away. Arriving one day early will ensure that you do not miss your ship or spend the first day of your vacation in a panic. It does not hurt to arrange pre-cruise transfers either, especially if you're flying into Anchorage and having to travel to Seward or Whittier. Also, make sure that you are going to the right cruise port. There are two main cruise terminals in Alaska, Pier 66 and Pier 91. Pier 66 is primarily used by Norwegian Cruise Line, whereas Pier 91 is used by a couple of different cruise lines, including Royal Caribbean, Carnival, Princess, and Holland. The last thing you want to do on embarkation day is arrive at the wrong terminal and have to book another ride to the correct one. Also, you should know that flying into Vancouver can be expensive, and a train from Seattle might help you save money. The train from Seattle to Vancouver takes roughly 4 hours. While this isn't something you'd want to do the day your ship departs, it can save you money if your schedule allows. Tickets from Seattle can usually be found from anywhere between $30 and $50 per person, whereas one-way flights are often over $100 per person. With train stations, you don't have to worry about going through security either. Make sure that you research your ports of call and book excursions in advance as well. Alaska shore excursions highlight the outdoors. You can go whale watching, ziplining, kayaking near glaciers, and more. And while you can board the cruise with no real plan, you may find that your options are limited as others book tours early in the planning process. Plus, you may want to prioritize certain tours in certain ports. You are more likely, for instance, to see whales when on a whale watching cruise in Juneau or Icy Strait Point. Likewise, some ports have more unique offerings, such as the cultural tour available in Ketchikan. Before your cruise vacation, make sure that you spend time researching and planning what you want to do while ashore. And during your Alaska cruise, make sure that you always get off the ship, even if you have been to the port before or you don't find an exciting excursion. Even if you do not have an excursion booked in every single port of call, you should plan on getting off and exploring the area close to the pier, whether that's finding a local restaurant or brewery, browsing the shops, or just taking in the town's culture. If you do not know where to begin, browse TripAdvisor for some restaurant ideas. Better yet, ask a local when you get off of the ship. You do not have to spend the entire day ashore either. However, you are in Alaska and you should experience as much of this beautiful and unique state as you can. Also, come prepared with medication to combat motion sickness. If you begin to feel seasick during your Alaska cruise, you might start to feel a range of symptoms like dizziness, fatigue, headaches, irritability, loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting, or cold sweats. Even if you've cruised before, you need to come prepared with motion sickness medication. The Gulf of Alaska is subject to strong currents. Having this medication on hand will make sure that you do not waste time feeling sick on your cruise. Also, if you're sailing a one-way itinerary, you'll probably need a passport. If your cruise is round trip from Seattle, you technically don't need a passport as that's considered a closed loop cruise. For those, however, that depart from Vancouver, Canada and end in Seward, Alaska, you will definitely need one. Not only do you depart from an international terminal, but you also end in a different port of call, so you will definitely want to have a valid passport. Even if your cruise is from Seattle, it's always recommended to have a passport. You never know an emergency will arise. Having a passport will make getting home that much easier. Also, on embarkation day, confirm all of your dining reservations and show times. If you have yet to do so on embarkation day, make sure that you make any specialty dining and show reservations. Otherwise, you may find that the available times do not work for your schedule. Likewise, if you decide to choose the flexible traditional dining option, you should try and reserve as many dinner times as possible. The last thing you want to happen after a long day in port is to be subject to a wait to be seated in the main dining room. Also, find a comfortable spot to soak in all the scenery. Unlike on a Caribbean cruise, you will see land for most of your Alaska cruise. While on board the ship, especially if you do not have a balcony cabin, you'll want to find a spot where you can view the passing glaciers, waterfalls, and mountains. The top decks are popular options. However, you might want something a little bit more secluded or indoors, so take time to explore the ship and see what's available. For your Alaska cruise, you can also consider bringing cards, board games, or a good book. Overall, the onboard experience during an Alaska cruise is a little bit more relaxed than those in the Caribbean. There will not be a shortage of onboard activities and events. However, some guests like to spend time with other members of their travel party playing cards or board games. If you're looking for some alone time, you can bring a book with you as well. With as much as 19 hours of daylight in summer, expect your sleep schedule to be a little bit different. Due to the state's location, Alaska has different daylight hours than you might be used to. You should take advantage of the longer hours of sunlight by waking up earlier and staying up later. Also, be sure to pack snacks to nibble on throughout the day in port. Excursions in Alaska tend to be long. Unlike those in the Caribbean, you most likely will not find yourself leisurely relaxing on the beach for the majority of the day. To hold yourself over between meals, pack a few small snacks in your day bag. Even if lunch is on the itinerary, you may find yourself craving a snack due to the physical activity level of some of the more strenuous options. Also, bring proper footwear. You will want to have a variety of footwear. The most important, however, is a comfortable pair of sturdy, water-resistant sneakers or lightweight hiking shoes with plenty of grip that can handle slippery and or rocky surfaces. They'll support many outdoor activities that you might want to do during your cruise, like ziplining, rafting, horseback riding, and kayaking. Wearing flip-flops during the day is definitely not advised. Also, pack an all-weather jacket. Alaska is not a year-round destination for a reason, and even though you'll be cruising during the warmest months of the year, Alaska is still subject to colder temperatures and heavy precipitation. All-weather jackets are crucial to help you remain warm and dry. Plus, you can find some that can be easily rolled up and thrown into your day bag in case of any weather fluctuations throughout the day. It might be wet when you disembark and sunnier in the afternoons. Also, consider purchasing a waterproof day bag to carry your belongings. Speaking of day bags, you will need one to carry not only your all-weather jacket, but other miscellaneous items that you will want on your person, such as your sunglasses, your hat, gloves, cruise card, cash, insect repellent, and your sunscreen. If it starts to rain, the bag and contents inside might get wet, and that's why we recommend purchasing a waterproof bag. Also, dress in layers. Alaska is not the Caribbean, and you will not be able to wake up and throw on your swimsuit for the morning and afternoon. When sailing to Alaska, it's crucial that you dress in layers. In the mornings and evenings, you will notice that the temperature is cooler than during the afternoon. When you're exploring the port, you will want to be able to adjust your layers as needed. We suggest a base layer. Think of something like a simple long-sleeve t-shirt, followed by a warmer layer like a fleece or down jacket, and finally a waterproof layer as mentioned earlier. Even though you're going to be dressing in layers though, you will want to throw at least one swimsuit in your bag. As we've mentioned, you won't be basking in the sun all day during your Alaska cruise. However, that doesn't mean that there won't be opportunities to relax in one of the ship's hot tubs on a sea day. Cruise ships also have a spa and thermal suite, and you may decide you want to splurge on a treatment or spa pass while on board. And finally, don't overpack. When packing for your Alaska cruise, you will want to find the perfect balance between not bringing enough clothing and bringing too much. Packing for warmer climates tends to be easier as the clothing is not as thick. While you will want to have appropriate articles for exploring the ports during the day, you will also need clothing to wear while on board the ship, such as loungewear during the day and nicer outfits for dinner. It is okay to rewear stuff, especially if you're worried about making room for some bulkier items. And ladies, you can get away with wearing the same 3 or 4 dresses at night. All right, everybody, that is all we have for today. Thanks for tuning in, and be sure and like and subscribe to Cruise Blogs so that you can be notified every time we have a new video. Until next time, this has been Allie, and happy cruising.